Welcome back to the studio. Today we're going to paint a dream aquarium and do something a little different, which is focus on being present. Right now I'm just showing you the most recent, Milo's over there, most recent Zentangles that are coming up on Shorts soon and on TikTok, or will be. And we're gonna make a blank page in our Lamali Paris book. I'm gonna clip with these little, hey, don't take that, Milo, little things. I have my number 2 Princeton brush, water and paper towel, and then a bunch of different paints here, notably the Under the Sea palette from KMS Watercolor, which I love, bless you. And the names are really cute. They're like clownfish, seafoam, seafloor, squid, jellyfish. So I thought we could use some to create some of the creatures in what we're doing. Kuretake, my palette that I don't know the name of. Brighter Day Pigments. And then Xylee we might use. TBD. So we're gonna do something which I don't usually do, which is actually, do I want to do this where it's turned to the side? Let's give it a go, shall we? So the kittens have worked out how to jump up onto my chair, so I can't really prevent them from being up here. They're so big now. I only have them for another week. Look, remember when they will just walk across the page? Now he's the whole page. Sad, but they're so cute. Okay, adios, Milo. I'm gonna put you down. So, I thought what we could do is paint together. I was talking to my friend Emma the other day, who lives in Australia, and she said one of our friends, Zaylee, if you're here, Zaylee, hey, likes to come home after work and paint these, which is so lovely, like instead of being on the phone or something. And so just like as a kind of a non-screen thing to do. And so I thought, why don't we lean into that a little and we can do this one together if that's something you like to do as well. And if not, oh, let me put my focus on. If not, you can just watch and we will chit chat a little bit. Either way, we'll just be chilling. I'm gonna start by drawing a little bit of seaweed. And I'm envisioning this page as kind of like a snapshot of part of the sea. So I don't necessarily have the floor or the sky above the sea. It's just like one kind of chunk if I was taking a photo of it. And I'm gonna fill this with all kinds of things I want to have in my little dream aquarium. You can do the exact same as me, or you can make up what would be in your dream aquarium. Just using this concept, totally up to you. And then I keep this box, see Daisy? Well, let me reverse a tiny bit. Whenever I hear a quote that I really like or particularly hits, I put it on a Post-it note and I put it in this box that I have. And I was going through the box the other day because sometimes I just need to hear something and I pull from it. And I realized I could kind of categorize these Post-it notes into themes of when I need certain motivation. So whether that's being present, being motivated, having compassion, which I don't think I really struggle with. I think I kind of actually can be too compassionate. So, you know, kind of being selfish, quote unquote, is one. Grief, all kinds of stuff. And I have quite the collection. I've been building it for a few years. And I thought what we could do today is as we're painting, I'll tell you some of my favorite ones that are in relation to being present. And so we can kind of just soak those in together as we paint this and hopefully come out the other side feeling present and refreshed. So I've done a little seaweed. A stingray is one of my favorite animals, if you didn't know. These are shimmery too, which is a lot of fun. So let's do one of those. How does one paint a stingray? I think like this. That looks about right. I've only seen one in real life once, I think. And it was in an aquarium. Our first cat hair of the piece, lovely. I did just put the kitten on the paper, didn't I? Anywho, okay, so let's start with one of my absolute favorite quotes, which is that nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Which is so true. If you think of a flower growing, oh, can we get this? It really takes its sweet time. Like, it's not going to happen overnight at all, but it is going to grow. I mean, assuming it's in a place that has all of the tools it needs for survival. So it's sunlight, it's water, and it still happens. And I think sometimes, sorry, there's a helicopter, my gosh. Sometimes we expect an outcome so quickly, and that's just not the way it happens. Sometimes we need to be a little more organic about things, and I just like to remember that when I'm feeling like I don't like how the pace of things are going, that I look outside and I see the trees or whatever is going on, and I thought, this thing took so long to grow and it's not nervous about getting where it's supposed to get to. I mean, the trees don't have bills or homework or anything like that. So I know it's not a direct comparison, but I think a lot of the time we can strip back on the rush that we feel and just remember that we are nature too, ultimately. We have a lot in our lives that is not nature, but we are. And if we just go about doing what we think is the best course of action for us, we're going to accomplish what we need to. Can you guys see this okay? I think so. So Lao Tzu said that, and I often wrote down who said the quotes, but I didn't always. And so if there's one that I'm not able to credit, I apologize. If you know who it is and I didn't say, please comment. I found a lot of these through podcasts, just lots of different sources. There wasn't really one necessarily. So let's take a moment to look at this stingray. And we did the outline of her. She's a girl faux show. And now I'm just using the shape that I made for her to fill in the body. So on this one, clearly we are doing all the shapes individually one by one first, which makes the most sense for this because they're all gonna be different colors because we have lots of different creatures, and you can put whatever creatures you'd like in yours. I'm gonna crisp up the corners and take them down till we've kind of made a bit of a diamond shape here, which is fun. I wasn't expecting that. That police car is really ruining our piece here, isn't it? Wow, hopefully that passes soon. Anyways, my next favorite quote is from Cindy Crawford, icon legend, who said, "You can't multitask presence," which is such a simple concept that is just so true. It is one thing that requires all of your attention, and that's why I like Zentangle so much, because especially when you're able to listen to something while you're doing them, like a podcast or music or audiobook or a show, or me if you're painting with me right now, all your senses are taken up by what we're doing, and so you have no choice but just to focus on that, and you only will receive the benefits of presence if you are present, you know? It's like you're only going to get the effects of going to the gym if you go to the gym and do the workouts. You can't just see and save posts on Instagram of workouts you want to do. You have to actually do it. And I think presence works the same way. So I love that she said that. I don't know the context, but it's just such a good reminder. Can't multitask it. Okay, we're making a nice tiny little shape in here. Oh no, another poly scar. This is just gonna be one stripe like this, one from the other side, and then I'll just use the very tip of my brush to totally connect them. Love that. Look at the shine. That's really fun. Okay. What should we do next? Let's look on here for inspo. Sea star. This looks like a little moon. I think would be a great one. What I'm gonna do for the Zentangling outside is blue, of course, for the water. And we're gonna do the box method, which I think will turn out looking pretty cool. Okay, so sea star here. So our next reminder of how to get in the present is that you cannot have momentum without moments. And I think it can be, hold on, can you see this? Or is my hand in the way? Let's move a little bit. I think it can be hard to kind of focus on something and feel momentum toward completing it when you're not at the place you want to be or you haven't really built the results yet. Oh no, my hand is in my seaweed. It's okay. But that momentum and the traction you have on whatever it is you're working on exists because of the little moments that you put in to get it there. And so that moment where you're feeling you don't have the motivation is one of the moments where you're building the motivation. So that's been a really helpful unlock for me, is kind of similar to the first one we said, which was nature does not hurry yet, everything is accomplished. Each moment is so important. To take it back to working out, for example, you don't see results that same day. But over time, when someone says, oh my gosh, you're looking sexy, you had all these moments that built up to that point. And so as long as your goal is in your mind, you can do it. You just need to have all those little moments. And I don't know who said that one. I forget. I'm sorry. So this is a fun little sea star. Obviously, this painting's not to scale, but I think it never really is when I do these. This is going to be a fun one to get all up into, because it's going to have all these little tendrils. I'd love to do a all starfish one at some point. I know I mentioned that ages ago. My list for Zentangles is pretty big, so we'll get there one day. Anyways, our next quote is from one of my faves, Eckhart Tolle, and he said, accept this moment as if you had chosen it. So sometimes, a lot of the time, things happen and it wasn't in our control. And instead of, the feeling of that being frustrating is beyond valid. But sometimes we then spend all of our energy frustrated with that moment and how things didn't go our way. Whoa, the dog agrees. And that's kind of a misdirection, because if it's something that we can't change, we may as well just be like, okay, this is the reality. Like, how do we now move around with this information? Because if you're sitting there going, oh, I'm so upset about this, which, of course, give yourself a minute or two of that. I don't mean a literal minute, like maybe you need less, maybe you need more. You're not going in any direction. And maybe the direction is working out how to change something you don't like about the situation. And maybe the direction is just repointing you because you can't do what you'd wanted to do. But either way, I find this quote helpful because slowing down enough and being present enough with yourself to realize the reality of the situation, which is that you can't change things, is going to save you so much emotional distress and time, because you can, just recalibrate what's going on in your brain to accept the moment and move around it accordingly. It's kind of similar to a quote, which I again didn't write down who it was, but I saw what was, didn't argue with it, went another direction. Because arguing is exhausting. I know there's some people who find it fun as a sport. That's not me. I feel like if you're watching my videos, that's also not you. And not that I was ever argumentative, but as soon as I really realized that it was... Guys, 2 of the cats are attacking each other, like playfully, but background noise. Where was I going with that? I mean, obviously there's times where you need to either stick up for yourself or defend what is happening. Maybe someone is in a position where they need your argument, or you're trying to make something happen. But if it doesn't need to be an argument, if you're able to just kind of say, all right, sick, I'm gonna go my own way, I think you'll be a lot more peaceful. And when I say you, I mean you plural, like me as well. These are all things that I've found helpful. Do you know what's gonna be fun next is a nice little jellyfish. We can use jellyfish color. By the way, I think it's 10% off KMS Watercolors, and I have the code in my bio. She has really good shimmery colors. Okay, so let's hope this is dried. Wow, this color is great. I love that. I don't use that enough. How do we draw a jellyfish? I don't know if I've done that before. I'm gonna do his little head. And I want to go back in and add more pigment to that. It's kind of iridescent. How fun. Lovely. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of a ripple. Don't worry, I'll fix that. Oh. You know what we can do is do multiple colors for the, I don't think it's tentacles. I don't know what the word is. The things, these. Anywho, okay, another thing that helps me when I need to feel present, or I'm having difficulty feeling present, is to change my expectation for appreciation, which Tony Robbins said. He says a lot of really helpful things, actually. And why I find this helpful is because if you have an expectation, you're focusing on a different moment. So this pertaining to Zentangles, I find specifically helpful, because if I have an idea of how exactly this piece is going to turn out in my head, specifically with these, it's really a disservice, because the whole point of Zentangles is that you don't know how they're going to turn out, because each line is affected by the line before it, and what we haven't done yet is an unknown. And so if we then try and throw kind of dictating something that it's going to come out as on top, chances are we'll be disappointed. And why I'm now gonna use this color. Why would you want to set yourself up for disappointment? That would just be silly. Ooh, fun. That looks like a double helix. This isn't dry, so it's going to bleed, but it might look kind of cool. And then let's do one more here. Nice. So like these, I hadn't planned at all, and I think they turned out really cool. They might not be the best way I could have done it. It could have been something more exciting, but if I kind of tune my focus of this moment to appreciation for how it did turn out, I'm A, in the moment, so being present, and B, happier because I'm focusing on what made me feel good in this situation, which was that we have a multicolored little jellyfish, which isn't life-changing or groundbreaking, but it's a Saturday afternoon and I had a lovely morning and I have exciting plans this evening. And this is my moment to chill out with myself and you guys. And so I want it to be the best moment that it can be. So whatever direction my thoughts are going, the end goal is that. This morning I went to one of my favorite cafes from Miami. Pura Vida just opened in Beverly Hills. And so I went with a friend for breakfast. And it was so exciting because I usually can't have that because it's not in LA and it now is. And we had a lovely time. I got a strawberry matcha and then I got the ahi tuna bowl. Anyways, let's, in all this talk of trying to find presence, let's just debrief on milkshake. There's a lot of background noise for one little kitten, you know. Come here. Milkshake alert. Why don't you sit up here? Or he's gonna get in the way if he's up here, isn't he? Anyways, let me not interrupt myself again. So let's just talk about the why we want to be present. And my main draw for wanting to be present, or pull, I guess, is that I feel like it really helps my mental health. If you're being present, you are actively reducing the anxiety you're going to feel, because anxiety is, of course, worrying about the future and kind of spiraling into the what ifs. And if we're just focusing on and appreciating and making this present moment as best as it can be, the what ifs aren't gonna get us today, you know? So that's helpful, just less rumination. And again, if we're talking about where our energy's going, to a place that is of benefit to us. So before we get more into that, let's look at this little composition. It's kind of feeling like it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which is feeling too matchy for me. So I'm gonna do something here, something here, something here, oops, and then fill in all these areas. So let's look at our sheet and see if there's anything that inspires us. Clownfish, obviously we'll be doing. Sea anemone, that could be a cool one because it'll have little spikes. Kittens, so loud. So also, I feel like being present helps emotional resiliency. Is that a word? It is now. I feel like if I made t-shirts, one would say, is that a word? It is now. Maybe I should make that t-shirt. No, guys, it's really a bit loud over there. Why don't you play on your blankie? Okay. So when we're present, we're really paying attention to the emotions that arise at the current moment, because we're in a place where we can see them and accept them. If we are not present, we're not really in tune with ourselves, and then these emotions can all build up and like come at us later, maybe at a time that's not optimal to deal with them. And so I think it just kind of mitigates emotional buildup, which is great. And then of course being present helps with your focus and productivity. You can concentrate deeper. I feel like I make higher quality work when I'm present in the moment. Finding the zone is pretty much the definition of being present, and the zone is one of my favorite places, of course. I say that a lot too. And then I think, of course, it just helps your relationships. Like if you're present with someone, you're really listening to what they're saying, you're understanding them better, you're being a better friend or lover or family member to them. And ultimately, they'll respect that and hopefully do the same for you. So it all comes around as niceness, I guess. And I feel like it makes me less reactive if I'm present, because I can kind of pull everything we've just spoken to together and see all elements of something before reacting. And elements might be the story from someone else's side, so pulling on empathy. It might be, oh, I'm in a public setting right now, and yelling at this person would make me look like an absolute idiot and also probably embarrass them. And I just feel like it slows what could be a regrettable decision later. And then, of course, all this to say is it lowers stress levels. It's just kind of like a recharge time, I find anyway. This pink is really pretty. This is a sea anemone, by the way. I don't know how to draw those, so I just made a kind of puffy, I don't know, it's a floating sea anemone. I don't think they really float. This is kind of a sea urchin vibe. Anyways, I like it. So let's scoot on back over to our quotes. So one that I love so much and is a really helpful reminder for me is from Joel Osteen. And he said, when you're in peace, that's a position of power. Because of all the things we just said, right? Like, you are in control of how you show up in the world, whether that's in a kind of split decision moment, how you show up to your goals and your North Star of the things you want to accomplish. But you're in a position of power, because if you don't have control and if you let your emotions rule you and you're not kind of tending to your relationships, those things will have control over you. So you are at their mercy, which is totally not the best way to be, in my humble opinion. Knowledge is power is something I love to say as well, and just knowing as much as you can. So focusing as much on the current situation and taking in all the cues of everything will bring you to a position of power where you can then use that in your relationships, in your personal life, in your decision making, and your space of mental health, and all these things that contribute to what kind of day you're having, I would say. Then the next one is actually something that I say all the time, and I think I made it up. I'm pretty sure I did. I mean, I'm sure someone has said this somewhere, but this is not something I attribute to someone. This is just how I feel, which is that being present can be just as powerful as being productive. Obviously, we need moments, a lot of them, of being productive, to get about in life, make a living, being productive in our relationships, everything like that. But we are not machines, and we can't go. So it's all a balance. And being present is also being in a space to recharge and come up as our best selves for those moments of productivity. To fully show up and be aware of your attention in a specific moment is the greatest gift you could give yourself and the people you interact with, really. Okay, let's have a look at our composition. What else is under the sea? Maybe we could do a nice fish here. Kind of feeling like this turquoise. I know this says sea turtle, but I'm actually going to be painting a turtle soon. And I want this to be different, so we're going to use this color here, which clearly I've used a lot of. So anyways, with that in mind, let's do a little bit of a check-in right now with yourself. How are you feeling? Are you feeling present in this moment? How's your heart rate? Are you enjoying what you're working on if you're working on something? Are you having fun? I think sometimes for something to become a habit, we need to, like what motivates me anyway, is to notice, oh, I actually really, this kind of looks like a shark. I really felt good when I was doing that thing, and then that's what motivates me. Well, I guess it's gonna be a shark. How do I turn this into a shark? I didn't really plan this one. I mean, I didn't plan any of them, but I guess they were easier shapes. This could be a shark from above, which I know doesn't make sense. So this is actually gonna be its little, you know what? This one just might not be our best one. So read the check-in, how we're feeling in this moment. I feel chilled enough to not care that this is not really a fish. I'm just having a good time. Okay, then one of my favorite, okay, I've been saying that a lot. I have a lot of favorite quotes, but this one is so grounding to me. It's from Andre de Shields, and he said, slowly is the fastest way to get to where you want to be, which is very similar to our first one, which is that nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. And you can't do everything all at once. And if you have a big goal and you strip back, as long as you do something, whether it's every day, whether it's once a week, like whatever the cadence is that you can fit into your life healthily, if you do that and you're consistent with that, you're going to make progress. That's just math. I know I'm not in any position to be telling anyone about math because it is one of my least favorite things ever, but it does make sense, you know? Let's fill in this little mystery tale over here. If you go fast, you're going to burn out. And then you're gonna have these phases of not being able to work. I know that happens to me. I'm really intentional now about taking rests and breaks because for so many years I didn't find the value in that. And I would go until I completely stressed out and broke down. And then I'd have months at a time where I wasn't pushing myself forward in any way. And then, you know, the rabbit in the hair and all that, I realized, maybe because I saw this quote, I don't remember, but slowly is the fastest way to where you get to want to be, because when you are slow, you're in control and you can deal with anything that might come up that throws you off or isn't what you wanted from that place of power that we discussed, and just kind of chop it away and keep going to your North Star. I hope I explained that well. I think that quote and a lot of these really do the talking for themselves, but I thought I'd tell you how I take it and it affects me personally because this is my video, am I right? Okay, I'm liking this better than when we first started. I still don't know what it is though, but it's a great color. Okay, so, and then I think I'll do some little fish here. See where that takes us. I don't really have shells, but there aren't shells necessarily floating in the middle of the ocean. Neither is there that, but it's cool. Okay, so next is jealousy is just love and hate at the same time. Who said that? Drake, which is also known as being present enough to know what you're really feeling about something. So the feeling of jealousy makes us all kind of seething and upset. And I agree with him that the reason you're feeling like that is because it's love and hate at the same time. It's confusing in your head. Again, you plural, this is me too. And why do we take the bad part of that and run with that and let that lead our emotion? I was in the gym the other day and I was behind this girl who was gorgeous and had an amazing body. And I was like, oh man, I don't look like that. And then I was like, hold on, how fun that I get to be behind someone who is so cute. Oh no, look what I've done. Well, you know what we're gonna do? Did you watch my video on how to fix mistakes? Because if you did, you would have learned we can just make it bigger. Nobody's gonna know. How, guys, you're making cardboard ad-libs again, I don't like. How motivating that I get to be behind her. And I realized that the feeling I was feeling was jealousy, obviously, right? I don't look like that. But I'm not gonna look like that if I just sit here and stew. I may as well take it as motivation, appreciate what I can appreciate in that moment, and do the best workout I can, and have that be the little moment that builds momentum for everything else. See how it all ties in together here? I feel like it's more of a state of mind, this presence. Anyways, that quote has to do with presence because it makes you, like, if you're not in tune with your emotions and really slowing down enough to pick up on them, you're not gonna know what you're feeling, and you might just, jealousy, anger, bad day, which, whoa, doesn't have to be like that. Okay, before we go into our next ones, let's assess our little picture. I'm craving some orange, really craving some orange. So we have this guy here. I also quite like the Brighter J Pigments one. I think I'm gonna do that one here. I love clownfish. They're actually one of my favorite animals. I don't think I put them on my favorite animals painting because I didn't remember, but I'm remembering now. So this isn't gonna be a clownfish though. It'll more just be like a goldfish. I'm gonna do the same kind of fish I did in that painting that was on black paper with the turquoise shimmer, if you remember that one. That was on shorts. Oh, let's have a look at where, we just made it in time. My brush is getting a little thick. I am excited to get a new one of these brushes when I go on my holiday. Okay, nice. I think we've got a good color balance going on so far. So we're gonna move along the body. Oh. Same at the bottom. And then when something like that happens where it flails out, that's just how we're gonna make our next line. So I'm gonna go to the tip of it and pull that down. Remember, when we look at these at the end, we're simply just not picking up on the minor points that are wrong, because they're not wrong. They're how the painting was made. In this style of painting. I know in other things can be wrong. Wait, look at how cool the shimmery and the non-shimmery look together, and they like kind of bled. Love that. We should do more like that, shouldn't we? Okay, this one is cool because it looks like a little baby fish inside the mom fish. The fish is a mommy. I miss Love Island. I'm still watching the UK one though, because I'm very slow and behind. All right. Who am I saying all right to? Not sure. I think, milkshake. Let's move along and do one right here. We have this fun speckle. Guys, let's make this going another direction too. This one is swimming down, down, down. Maybe he has some front. Guys, you're being dramatic. Come here. There's Mamacita, who is named after Love Island. Yep. So anyways, this one is swimming down to another neighborhood in the ocean, going to visit her friends. Don't eat my paper. They're in a really playful mood right now, and so they are attacking everything. They're so cute. They're about 6 weeks old now. And if you didn't know, I'm fostering them. Because the shelters in LA get really overrun and they don't have space for everybody. And so they need fosters so that the cats can stay in the world with a place until they, oh no, look what I've done, until they have their forever home. And I have a nice studio that is clean and safe and has lots of things to climb on. So I figured, you know what, why not? I'll have a few little kittens in here for a couple weeks. And I'm so happy I did, because they're just like they're honestly little balls of dopamine. Every time I see them, I just get so excited. They're so cute. I think I'm gonna do more in this color because I kind of like how it's balancing everything. Did you see the video we did about composition and balancing out the layout of your Zentangle? So remember how we wanted to have the same amount of paint in each quadrant or section to keep it balanced? Kind of the same thing with color in this type of piece. So there's a lot of gray because there's a big shape right here, and this orange is smaller, but if we add together this fish, and the third one I'm about to do, then it's around the same as these other bigger shapes-ish, and that balances everything out. If you haven't watched that video, that's a good one if you're kind of struggling with composition, balance, and stuff. Okay, so we're in the crevice, which is my least favorite part of the book, but we're just gonna peel it back a little and make a nice fish right here. Sorry about the shadow, but we won't be here forever. For some reason, I guess I do them all facing the same way when I'm not actively trying to have them swim down into another neighborhood. Okie dokes. So let's go back to our little quotes, shall we? Are you having fun? I don't know. This one is from Robin Roberts, who said, "Optimism is a muscle that gets stronger with use." And that is one of the most accurate things I've ever heard. A lot of people are just born with optimism and a sunny disposition, and they're so lucky, because for a lot of us, it is something we have to be actively conscious about. I think I have a tendency to be kind of pessimistic, and in trying to understand why I'm the way I am, I've discovered it's more of a safety mechanism and me trying to protect myself as opposed to, oh, I just want to be grumpy. Because if you're kind of expecting for or preparing the worst, you're hopefully not going to be too thrown off by everything, and that'll keep you safe. But that's a little bit of a prehistoric thing we do. Like now we have all kinds of technologies and friendships and all these things where we can have help being safe, and so we don't have to assume a bear is going to come and eat our cave or whatever. Probably not the best analogy. I'm going to do one more right here. Facing the other way, which means I need to focus. Oh gosh, okay, let's see. Why is this so difficult? He's coming up to the seaweed. Maybe he's going to have a little sniff. Crisp up his nose. Guys, you're really having the zoomies right now. Make his little fins. These ones are kind of bigger. These look like those nice ones you get in the pet store. Okay. Guys, I'm filming, you know? Anyways, optimism is a muscle that gets stronger with use. I really had to train myself to be more optimistic. I think in a lot of ways I am optimistic, but then in a lot of ways, if there's something that's kind of leading toward pessimism, I find that so much easier to latch onto than optimism. And we can't just be happy-go-lucky about everything all the time, of course, because that's not really how life works. Nothing is always perfect. I'm just thinking about how big I should have done that. Focusing a bit in here. But how this relates to being present is, again, slowing down enough to be optimistic in this moment. Kittens, often it's really, really, really not easy to choose to be positive. We're gonna now move on to clownfish. But then I put this one at the end because, well, we still have another, but toward the end of this quotes collection I have curated, because it might not be easy, but we still need to choose to do it. It being optimistic about something, just as pertaining to everything else, like the you can't have momentum without moments topic. This choosing optimism in a time where that might not be easy is you making one of those little moments the best decision for you. I think anyway. And so that's all in regard to like having a good day and just setting yourself up for the best mindset you can have. So when you're having a hard time seeing the bright side of things, I guess, just remember that it is a muscle, and choosing to, sorry, I really had to concentrate there because we're in the curve of the page and it's a little hard to see, and I did go kind of close, but whatever. Let's go inside, make our baby fishes. Oop, plural of fish is fish. Oop, I kissed. A lot going on right now. Okay, I think let's do a baby here. Oh boy, what was I on about this time? Well, I guess to relate it to the gym again, and we'll do one this way, is doing the reps or doing a heavy weight in the moment probably doesn't feel great. You might be like, what the helly have I got myself into here? But then a bunch of sessions later, and when you're chilling and feeling good about yourself, you actively chose to grow the muscle, literally. And it's the same thing. So if you're having a really hard time trying to see the positivity, just say to yourself, let me just do it this one time, grow it, and every time you do that, it'll hopefully be easier to do as you go along. At least that's what I found in my experience. So let's have a look at our whole composition, shall we? Oh, I really like this one. I feel like this is good in terms of scattering things all over the page. We have some nice little activity by the seaweed. We have this urchin anemone sitch. I'm gonna go clean out my paint water because it's looking like this and it has some sparkles in, and we're just gonna do a nice calm blue from the Kuretake palette. Just one color for the background because there's enough color going on. So let me go change that out, BRB. Okay, we have fresh water, lovely. My rag towel is looking quite pretty, isn't it? Okay, so let's just reorient ourselves with the box method, shall we? Which is where we're going to use the edge of our paper as the indicator of where our Zentangle is going to go. So I'm going to start in this corner. We can't pass the seaweed because in theory it goes down throughout the page, and so we're going to pivot make our way around, all with the intention of getting to the right corner, and then we do that same thing this way, this way, this way, boom, 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 until we totally close out our dream aquarium over here. And that's all. I'm actually gonna go like this because this is kind of a natural stopping point. And I wanted to choose a blue that's still luscious, but not too opaque. So the edge of the page is a little bit of a funky place. I'm just gonna orient myself with how it is. We have some yellow over here from our watermelons, just so I don't go off the edge. And that's not a straight line, which is gonna make this corner kind of fun when we go to Zentangle within it. So, gonna make our way along the edge of our seaweed. And I'm picking up my hand and moving it around because some places are some angles are much easier to do than others. I hope my hand isn't in the way. I can't really tell. I also wanted to do this method for this one because it'll kind of act as like the tank or the photo. Oh, got a lot going on right there. And then I really don't like this area, as I mention all the time, and once we get past it from this sense, I then have the whole page to not deal with it, so I thought that might be a fun thing to try. First, we'll make our way around our lovely little seaweed, which is seaweed lovely? It kind of smells, looks cool, I guess. I also really like this blue because it can have such light areas versus darker areas. So I just enjoy painting with it. I'm then gonna come from the bottom here because this will give me the best control and angle and all of that. Okay, first outline donezo, and then we're gonna move along the bottom of the paper to this shark. And I think I'll come around from this side. And as we do this, we're going to start to make the negative spaces that will fill in as we go. In looking at the, I just did a tour of the whole book so far over on TikTok, but I had a few requests to put the full video on YouTube too, so I'm gonna do that. I think it's coming in just a couple days. And I filmed it vertically, not horizontally, so I'm sorry about that. So there's black on the edges, which kills me visually, but I think if you don't like that, you can just skip it, or you can go watch it on TikTok. And if it doesn't bother you, excellent. Anyways, in going through the whole book, I really noticed, like, helped me to zoom out from this whole process. And I really noticed which ones I want to try more of and continue to explore. Because remember, that was my intention at the start, was to do something a little different each page until I kind of had a really broad spectrum of what this style of painting could do for me. And I really loved that brown one with the multiple shapes in the box method. I feel like that looked like chocolate, and I want to do more like that. And this won't be as trippy as that because we have a scene going on. Where's the edge here? Okay. But I would expect more of those if I was you from me. Make our way up here. Now we have this negative space here, which let's go all the way around and then do that. I'm gonna do this first because I have less of a chance of dragging my hand into what I'm about to do which is the bottom of this fish. And then come clean that up. Get into this little corner. Oh, my hand is there. Oh well. Okay, so the last quote I have for you today is that the foot feels the foot when it feels the ground. And who said this? Buddha. And this whole quote emphasizes the importance of like your direct experience with the presence, and being present, because the foot can't feel the foot, doesn't know it's the foot until it has context, which is the ground. This is interesting because, oh, I guess we'd come out, we'd come out the top of it again. So in theory, we'd go boop, back to, then back the way up here, and then back around our little tail. Okay. It's basically saying that self-awareness comes from engaging with the world around us. And self-awareness is never a bad thing. Actually, I think we could all use that at all times. Okay. Anyways, rather it comes through our experience in the world rather than through abstract thought. And abstract thought is important and fun to have, but we need to kind of interact with what's around us. And how can we interact with what's around us? By being present enough to know it's there. I feel like the world is just a kind of playground of stimuli and experiences and things that help us to understand ourselves best. Not just that, but that's a way to see it. And so when you put that little thinking cap on, it can kind of be fun to experience new things and just see what you get from it. Wow, I really like this one so much. I kind of like the white of it though. I'm not gonna leave it, but just saying. We're gonna make our way around the top of this lovely stingray. And this is where, from where I'm sitting, the page kind of curves, and so it's a little more difficult to see. So if it's not as clean and crisp as what's down here, that would be why. Okay, then let's color this back in, I guess, is what's happening here. And then we're going to come back down the tail. I'm so curious to see what your guys's look like. Was that the right tenses? How you've done this, if you've made it your own or done this too, and how that looks. Okay, so the edge of the page isn't straight at all, so neither will our line be because we're going by this edge. And I'm gonna lift it up so that I can see the edge because it kind of blends into the other edges, and that's how we get these colors on the next page. Like that yellow, it's from the watermelon one. And I'm gonna pull this so I can see it a little more and go along what I do know, and can see clearly, which is the bottom of this fish. And then back down to here. So we have a few negative spaces forming, which is fun. It's kind of like a turning point in the piece. I'm gonna pull this apart just so I can see it better. Make my way around. There is a version of this book from the same company, Lamali Paris, that's bound differently, and so the pages open flat. And I've used that before for that baby book, if you saw that video. And I really loved it, and I think once I complete this book, that's the style I will get. And if you are getting one of these books for something like this, I would recommend that type. So this is going to be easier to paint when I turn the page. So I'm going to do that. get all up in the corner and make our edge. This is gonna be tricky because I kind of have to use the side of my brush to get the tip down in there. And so this is gonna be thicker than the rest and also just a bit weird, but you know, that's fine. Accept this moment as if you had chosen it, and we're just gonna keep on swimming. And we can use the changes in size and like bumps or whatever you want to call it in the rest of our piece, and it'll all play together, and whatever we do, it's going to turn out great because the point is we had fun when we were making it. Okay, now that the hardest part is done, which is that innermost corner, I don't have to deal with it anymore. Hey Milo. Okay, now we'll go along the bottom, well, which is the side, but you know, perspective. Around that little, see that? And then we're gonna wanna make our way around this fish. And then because this is technically the same line, they can touch, like proper touch. So we'll go around it like this, and this, until we meet ourselves. And our first outline of the water is complete. And we have a little gap here that we can fulfill. And then we're going to want to do the same with our shark-like fish. I still don't know what it is. And so this, we're kind of using the boundary of our shape to be the bottom of our page and the underside, or the bottom or edge, whatever, of our shark. So it's a funny little shape that now has two sides. And I reckon for this piece, there's different modes in each piece. I want to fill in every blank space as it comes up once I finish the current line that I'm working on. So that would mean next for us filling these in. Like this. And then I'm gonna use my tip to draw in and kind of mimic what the thickness would be. If I were to use my brush flat here, it's just a little too small for that, and it would actually fill it all in. Okay, and then let's return to this corner. Can you see this okay? I think so. Oh, whoa, this is gonna be a long video. Well, I think you like those, so that works out great. And then we're just gonna go curve our way around this guy here. Oh, bit of a Cassandra happening. Cassandra. And up like this. I feel like the present is an energy sucker, but in the most positive way, because it's using all our little elements of senses, thinking, feeling, touching, yada, 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 to hold us in the space of presence. Kind of like what we were saying earlier, but I just kind of figured that was a different way to put it. And I like that. You know what else I like is I have my lunch from Pura Vida in the fridge for me to eat after this. Can't wait. And then we'll fill in this little bit, and we can use our imagination about what these little sections kind of are. So maybe it could be like a little whirlpool, or maybe like one fish's designated home. Kind of could be a little house, the 4 walls, which obviously a fish doesn't have a house with 4 walls, it lives in the ocean, but hypothetical feelings. Now let's do these 2 negative spaces here. What is this shape? This could be a lot of things. I don't really know. But oops, I touched. I'm gonna go all the way around. I really like how this is kind of the reverse, like the dark is here, the dark is here, the light is here, the light is here. Just a fun observation. I don't think I ever really had fish when I was younger, but we did have gerbils, a lot of gerbils, like over a stretch of a few years, and they lived in an aquarium, and obviously it was filled with gerbil things like hay and whatever that stuff is that I'm totally blanking on. But I remember we did get it from the aquarium store. And they were very happy in there. They'd make all kinds of little tunnels and things. Okay, then we're gonna go through this. Oh, you know what could be kind of fun is if you made a Finding Nemo version of these. So you made all the different Peach. I haven't seen that movie in a while, so I don't really remember their names, but that could be cool as inspo. In that little section. And then I think this one's just gonna be 1 or 2 lines because they're gonna meet in the center. We're getting all kinds of new shapes as we do this because it's not like we have circles that are constantly meeting like we do in a lot of pieces, you know, the blueberry shape, if we're doing actual circles, ovals, and that makes the Cassandras. But we're having edge of stingray fin and edge of goldfish. Can't say I've done that before. So we're now going to keep making our way around, starting at our new bottom left corner, which is right here above this fish. And because with each line, it has a top and a bottom and the sides, it's going to shrink pretty quickly because it's coming at, the shrinkage is coming at the piece from all angles. Which is cool. Uh-oh, gotta sneeze. I paused because you don't really need to hear my sneeze, especially if you're being chilled and then it's a really high decibel of noise. That would be awful. I've been sneezing a lot recently because I have such bad allergies, and I'm in that phase of allergies where I've run through all of the over-the-counter allergy brands and have built an immunity to all of them. So I'm just suffering out here, but it's seasonal, so it won't last forever. Not ideal. This is a fun shape. And then before we go into there, I want to remember where we come out, which is here, because sometimes it can get lost and it can get confusing of where we're meant to go next. Up this fin. Oh, right, but I started doing that because I wanted to fill this in while we're here. because I think it's just gonna be a couple lines. So because I've been using this brush a lot, like for months, painting every day, the bristles kind of spread out more. And so these lines are thicker than if you had just bought it. So we're going to come back down here along this mystery fin. Just fill that in a bit. Notice that could be a little crisper, couldn't it? And then we can't go through there, so we'll pivot around baby fish. Oh, we're dragging a cat hair with us. Got it. And back out here. Oh, these colors are summery. They make me feel happy. And then also while we're here, can get all up in that section. I've seen that people don't really like if I leave open bits, but like that's too small for me to put something in. So I'm gonna leave it open. I'm sorry if that upsets you. Around here. This is gonna close up pretty quickly, isn't it? So we'll go along the corner, and then again, I'm gonna kind of go along the top bit like so. Back down. Oh, that was quite thick. Another thing with that is a cat trying to scale the trash can. Another thing with whoa, sorry, I needed some water there. Another thing with this handmade paper is that the paint can kind of get caught into a little seed or something and spread somewhere where you might not have intentionally wanted it to go. So it's really a companion in the art of letting go and just letting what happens happen, which I like, helps me lean into it. So we're gonna get these little bits, which are quite satisfying little triangles. Love a little triangle. And then keep it pushing. I'm gonna start at this corner and work my way down because that just kind of feels best for me. Pick it up. It does really feel like the brush is kind of swimming or dancing along. I don't know if that's the visual is helping that, or I don't know. Just having that sensation. And no, I have not had any Japanese maple leaves today. So this corner is pretty done. Oh, sorry, you didn't even see that. This corner is pretty done, which is great. So I'm gonna go this way. Again, that makes more sense. And then come back in to this. And then let's get that triangle. I quite like this method for dealing with this side. Might do this more often. Going to turn it and pull the paper around this way. I really don't have a good place to rest my hand here, so it's just gonna be wiggly, and that's how it is. But in that, I'm gonna do my best to try and follow what we had down, and I'm doing it quickly to just kind of get it over with in a way. So since I'm using the side of my brush, the bristles are less in control and will flail a little more, hence that's why it's more wiggly. But that's just part of it. Move our way down. Oops, sorry, I didn't see that. It's a lot for me to focus on right now. And then we'll make our way around our starfish, doing a nice corner. Being present. So if you liked this style of video where we paint something together and then also discuss inspiration or motivation around a topic from my collection of Post-it notes, let me know, because I'm just trying to try something new here. I think of this would be something that I would want to watch if I needed help with a specific topic, such as leaning into my presence or getting motivated, maybe getting out of a bad mood. And I would love to know what other topics you might find helpful, and I can see if I have some wisdom in that department. Oh, Milo is climbing up the chair. He's not big enough where he's able to climb it, but he has to hurl his whole body at it with a running force and then latch his claws onto the chair and pull himself up, and it's hilarious. But he's done it, so he's sitting with me right now. I'm really glad we went with this blue. I feel like it's the perfect shade for everything we have going on. Oh, and look, we're about to close out this area. And then I'm gonna add some more pigment just so I can balance that connection a little better. Lovely, okay. Wow, so filled. Let us start again. So from the same bottom left corner, which again now has a totally different shape to it, we'll make these two bumps. And that was quite the bump, so I'm gonna smooth it. Hey Milo. It's funny, they all play with each other and attack each other, and when one of them is tired and wants a break from playtime, they come up to this chair. And there was a time, well, actually, I think the others can get up here, but Milo can do it with the least amount of effort, and so he's up here the most. Unless I put one of them up here, they'll just like sit by my chair and stare at me until I lift them up. But he's been doing that the most recently. But they all kind of have their little areas. Whoa, mamacita. My milkshake likes to sit on this blanket, my white blanket that's in the corner on the floor that I put, hoping they'd find it somewhere comfortable to be. And then Mamacita likes to go inside the little box that they came in, which I've turned to the side so they can just go in and out of it and have some human-free shelter. It's kind of like this whole room is a hamster pen for them. And then it's also my office, secondarily, obviously. We're getting close to the jellyfish. Ooh, are we gonna go? I think we can go between it. Oh, it did touch a little. That's fine. Now we come over to this fish, go as far down as I can, and then I'll take the tip to do the rest of that. Try to make the same amount of thickness where it's available. And then going up in here. And around. It's interesting how the blue has really concentrated in the bottom right of this piece. What's going on over there, little guys? Okay, again, this would go to about here. So I'm gonna reverse it. And then it wouldn't be able to go through that spike. So it'll go as far as it can, and then it'll go down, up, down, up, and kind of mimic the exact shape we have of our, what did we decide this was? Anemone. Bless you. And all the way until we kind of make it out of this area. We've met our original line. And then this is creating all kinds of negative spaces. Like this little triangle that we definitely won't be able to fill in, that's teeny. And back around, giving this whole anemone an outline until we come up to our stingray. That is Mamacita down there wanting to come up here. You have to come a little closer because I can't reach you. And then, let's pull things this way. We'll go along the edge of our stingray. Whoa, I just got deja vu. And not because I've done the edge of the stingray before, but this specific area. Okie dokie. Whoa! What's going on? She's discovered a new area to explore. Fun. Okay, now I have a little more control, and so I'm gonna copy the unintentional curves of this line. And you know what? Maybe this is closer to the top of the water where there's waves because there's wind and all these kind of things, and maybe that influences the top of, it's choppier up there than it is at the bottom, and so maybe that's, we've unintentionally started to represent that too, so that's fun. Make our way through. Oh, that fit very perfectly. How satisfying. And then we come over this side. And back around. Something about this corner is weirdly satisfying to me. Oh, Mamacita's on the chair. Hey. It's funny when one of them is in a playful mood and then the others aren't. You know what? That was stupid because a lot of this is wet. Yeah, I don't know why I did that. I have absolutely no idea why I did that. That was really dumb. Well, it's just her mark. Just trying to relieve Milo of her energy, but not today. Actually just gonna leave it and we're gonna work around it. Although I have something extremely pressing that I need to tend to. So I think I'm gonna have to pause this and come back to it. And I don't know if I'm gonna get to this today. So there might be a jump scare with much better lighting when I do this tomorrow, but I will let you know after this line. And connect. Whoa. Okay, while we're here, I can't resist doing these little bits. So this corner was kind of filled in by someone's little paw. So we'll just work our way around that. Like this, and then that we could get a little dip in. Okay, looking fun. I am gonna pause here and I'll be back at some point, but for you, like 1 second. So turns out it's the next morning or the next afternoon. I did my thing I had to do, which was super lovely. And then I went to bed because it was then very late. And then I had my favorite Pilates this morning, and then I did a boot camp, and then I went to the grocery store, and then I had a shower, and now we are here back present doing this Zentangle. So that's what you missed on Glee. We have lots of little negative spaces, and so we're just gonna go through the ones that are what I like to refer to as open right now. So like these, this, and then this is our last kind of big chunk. And we'll zoom in once we get to that because that's kind of fun. That could have been a little closer, couldn't it? I'm going to make my favorite fresh peach halloumi salad for lunch because it is the end of July and the peaches are peachin'. So that one pretty much closed this out. So we just have these little triangle bits to do, and I'm gonna use the tip of my brush to make those happen because again, it's a little bit too small of an area, oops, to let my brush just do its thing flat. That's kind of the best we can get, I'd say. Now let's zoom into our anemone. Just going round these little shapes. Why is something in my brush? There we go. I know I said it before, but this blue is just the quintessential like cartoon watercolor to me. Water like ocean. It's funny how water is clear, but we think of it as blue. And then this one will probably close it out. So I'm going to be really careful using the tip of my brush. And then we have space for this tiny little triangle. Oops. Well, not bad. This is just going to be one little swoosh, I can imagine, that has pointed corners. So I'm going to go along the bottom and get those corners down, and then go along the top, and then smooth out top and bottom. Easy. This one might be a little similar. Let's start with this tiny bit here. And then make our way around here. Really tight little area, so it's probably going to close it out. I feel like everyone's are going to be so different because we'll have different shapes of fish and sea creatures, and so we'll all be playing with different negative spaces at this point in the picture. A little kite. And then we can go up in there, touch, round. And up in there. Okay, nice. Let's move along to our final area, which pretty quickly as we go is going to become lots of little shapes. Okay, here we have this little kitten section. So why don't we start, I'm gonna pull this a little bit closer to me, start in this jellyfish corner and make our way over there. Just wanna crisp that. And then I'm gonna get my brush in the corner again and as best I can follow the line we made for ourselves. And then when we get over here, we're just going to treat this smudge like part of the picture because it is. So going around up in here, and then we would go back out this side. And then we would fill in that. Kind of fun. Maybe it's a little bit of a, you know, when you're swimming and you get a cold patch of the water, maybe that's what that is. It is kind of close to our hypothetical surface. And then we'll take this line along our jellyfish. Oh, can't forget to get this in the frame. And then I like to do a larger section first, and then you can always tie the tips at the end like that. And here we can turn the book and get our best angle. There's going to be a lot of connected lines in this because we, remember, still have to go around the jellyfish on that side. Oh wait, this is going to be two separate ones, two separate sides, because we go as far as we can, which is right here. And then we're going to hit this leg, so let's go through it like that. This is much more intricate than I had thought about, I guess. Then we're going to do the same here and up here. Nice connect. Then we go along the top, so tracing the lines we have, and down this side, overlapping with what we'd put down, and that seems to close out a lot of the blue. Making a bikini bottom and connecting like so. This looks like a little fish. Look at that. That's cute. Love her. And then same situation. I want to get a little more pigment on here. And then let's turn this again. So we have the best angle for up here. This white space is very tight between the purple and the blue compared to around here. I guess that's kind of because it's the option we had. I'm gonna go up from here. Do you like when the white spaces are wider or narrower? Curious. And then we meet that with our original corner. So now this is the biggest white space, and this is a little area. So I reckon we fill all these in before we move on to the bigger area, as we've been doing. We have this wide triangle. Use the tip to get as far down there as I can. Can we do a little more here? Oh, I don't know. That could be risky. Kind of. Whoopsie daisy. Fill that in our best. And then we have all these nice little sections that we created for ourselves when going around the jellyfish. And you know what? I think we can go in between the little jellyfish areas that we know are going to be touching, like these two, while we're here. So then when we come around later, these bits are accounted for. So that would be this. That's ultra skinny, but we could probably pop some in there. And then we have this side one. And then down the bottom, and this just happens to totally connect and completely fill that in with the spacing, so that's done. Oh, my brush is really not, the bristles aren't tightly bound anymore, so I'm painting assuming they are, and they're not, and then it's kind of a wider touch than I would typically have. Okay, and then our final little space, which is gonna really transform after one line. And I'm gonna go here while I can. Take this around what was the edge of our starfish. And then back up through this side. And fill in over here. And then we can, oops, not my finger going in the paint. Wow, this jellyfish shimmer is so nice. Going up in there. And then I'm doing both sides at the same time, so I'm working more from the top down as opposed to all the way around, because then my hand can be in a pretty, I have to move it less, I guess, is a good way to put it. Nice and crisp. And around. And then we're going to meet this jellyfish leg. And let's take this part down as well so we can bring our meeting point along with us. Fill that in while we're here. Kind of going out of order here, but I guess there isn't really a right way to do it. I guess it just differs from what I would typically do. But I don't usually paint jellyfish tentacles, so here we are. And then this is the same line, so that's just gonna have to connect. And we'll outline them all. Now that we have a smaller space, let's do the one at a time. So I'm gonna come out of here. That would go here just for my memory. And then I would like to work on this side. Squeeze our way through here and meet back. I guess same stitch. Okay, let's fill in all these little bits. So then we have our top interesting shape that kind of looks like upside down alien's head from Toy Story, sort of. And we just have that to worry about. So I get all these little guys. I like when the blue that's filled in is a different shade to what's around it. Like here it's lighter, there's darker. Outside here is lighter, inside is darker. Just like a nice story of where the paint has been, and interesting to notice how at that point we had more or less water. And we'll fill out this shape. And now we have our little upside down alien. You know, those green ones. Okay, I'm gonna start here and drag the brush all around the edge. Clean. That was a nice line. We're gonna do this side. And then crisp up the top. Really shrinking this little shape. Uh-oh, hair on the brush. Okay, let's give that dot a little home. And then let's zoom out to see the whole piece as we fill it in, because I feel like that might be satisfying. Looking pretty cool. So if you want to remember all the ways we discussed, kind of remembering how to be present at the start, I'm going to post on Instagram around the same time I post this, so hopefully it's there now. We'll see. A few of those quotes set on a Zentangle background and in a stills format, so you can just save them to look at when you need a little pep instead of just watching this whole video. I have a little saved folder on Instagram for stuff like that when I just need to have a look at something inspirational. Okay, so now we finished. How lovely. Thanks for being here and painting with me. I'm hoping that you are feeling super present, super connected to all the senses, and are having a great day or night, whatever it is for you. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, and let me know what you want to see next time, and I will see you then. Goodbye.